This is the homily of the 30th Sunday in Ordinary Time, Year C. The liturgy of this Sunday offers us a reflection on the way God exercises His justice in the world. God's justice does not ignore the sufferings of the poor, the weakest, those who do not always get justice in the courts of the world. God's justice is essentially manifested as love and mercy. All who are willing to receive God's merciful love will find grace and salvation. In our first reading of today, the wise man from the Jewish community convinced his fellow citizens to understand that God does not reject people. He hears the voice of the poor and the humble and does justice to the victims of the powerful. Perhaps the voices of the humble men mean nothing to the powerful men of the world, but they break through the cloud and go straight to the heart of God. In the Gospel reading, Jesus tells us a parable to some who consider themselves righteous and eliminate or ignore others. Placing side by side the figure of a Pharisee of exemplary life and a publican of more than doubtful life, Jesus draws a puzzling conclusion. Of nothing are words, the good works of the righteous, who convinced of his merits, present himself before God and his brothers and sisters with pride and arrogance. God prefers the sinner who humbly acknowledges his unworthiness and is willing to embrace the salvation that is offered to him by God. Our second reading offers us the testimony of St. Paul in the final phase of his life. Despite all the contradictions and vicissitudes he has to face because of his conviction and fidelity to Jesus and the gospel, St. Paul remained faithful and coherent. He fought a good fight and kept the faith. It remains now to trust God and surrender his life into his hand. St. Paul's example points towards the way of life we believers must follow. Ben Sirach, in our first reading of today, assures us that the prayer of the humble crosses the clouds and reaches God's heart. Because God is especially attentive to the poor, the disabled, and those that the world rejected. God is always attentive to the supplication of his most fragile children. The reading teaches us that the prayer of the humble touches God's heart and pleases God, and that the prayer of the rich man does not touch God's heart and is not pleasing to God. Why? Because of his arrogance and ignorance. In fact, the poor man presents himself before God with humility and simplicity and sees in God the one who can save him. With gratitude, he surrenders his whole life into the hands of God and trusts in his love. The rich man, on the contrary, presents himself before God sure of his importance, of his status and self-sufficiency. He feels more like a partner of God than a son of God, who owes everything to the love of God. The attitude of the rich man and his prayer do not please God because of his arrogance and self-sufficiency. And we as Christians of the contemporary world, how do we present ourselves before God in prayer? In our gospel reading of today, we have seen that the Pharisee does not pray to God, boast of what he is, compares himself as being the best of all. He believed there is no need to be saved, to be helped, to be forgiven. He has no need of God. He will give up with his pride, deprived of the merciful love of God. As for the publican, he turns to God, begs him to have mercy on him, recognizes his miseries and sins, but counts on the mercy of God. Evidently, Jesus teaches us that God hears the prayer of the latter and attends to it. God is open to the humility and the sincerity of the poor and makes him a righteous person. What Jesus criticizes about the Pharisee of the parable, and above all his listeners, is that they ignore others. We can therefore conclude, without fear of contradiction, that we cannot enter in a proper relationship with God when we ignore our brothers and sisters, when we don't have a proper relationship with our brothers and sisters. He who says he loves God and does not love his brother or sister is a liar. Near the end of his life, St. Paul evaluated the way he lived. I have fought the good fight. I have finished the race. I have kept the faith. As far as we know from St. Paul's life, this assessment is honest and true. It is very impressive to reach at the end of life and make this positive evaluation. Dear brothers and sisters in Christ, if we have at this particular moment to assess our lives, what will we say about the impact we put on the world and our brothers and sisters? Has our life so far made sense? Is there anything we can change or add to feel that our lives is worthy of living? Is there anything that we can change or add to make our life more meaningful to our brothers and sisters and bring an impact to the world? As we celebrate this Sunday's liturgy, may the Lord grace us from above, that we may be humble servants, humble children, walking under his guidance, open to receive his graces, in order to bring a positive impact in the lives of our brothers and sisters, and at the end to make a positive conclusion that we have fought a good fight, we have kept faith. I wish you a blessed and fruitful Sunday.